Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out with top trainer Dave Coldwell. Dave, how's life treating you?
Very good, mate. Thank you. Very good. I've had the house to myself for just over a week, and it's driving me nuts. My son and my wife are back now, so 2 out of 3. Yeah, I got some company and some humans again.
Good to hear. Good to hear. That's putting a smile back on your face. I want to reflect back on last weekend's action. I was there in attendance as well. To Chisora, someone who you know well, having cornered him in the past. He described himself as something that would need multiple turns of the toilet handle to get rid of. And he did stay. He did stay in there to his credit. There were some dicey moments there as well too, but he came through with the victory.
Yeah, it did. I spoke to Derek actually yesterday morning.
Mm.
Um, he's 1 in a million. He's a one-off. He's a one-off. Listen, whether or not you agree that he should be fighting or not, it's a different matter. But the actual character, the mentality, and the toughness of the man, I said to him, he's some sort of alien. You know, he's unbelievably tough. For a man, from early on, he looks gassed. He's absolutely shattered. He knows how to buy time. But it's the grit and the will to win. While ever he's in there, he's not trying to get through and get to the distance. He's always trying to knock you out. He's always trying to turn it around, even if it's sticky, if it's hard for him. He's always trying to, and he did it again. He turned it around again. Unbelievable performance.
Will Joyce's team kick themselves that they didn't put it down as a 12-rounder?
I would.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't. Listen, there's two sides to a deal that's getting worked out. Obviously, they should have. Makes sense. Joyce is one with the engine, and I think in Derek's last few fights, the pace gets to him, and so you would think that he would go for a 12-rounder. But on Derek's VR, himself, his management team, whoever's looking after him, they got it as a 10. And like I said, it's who wins that battle in the negotiations, and sometimes that can lend to giving you a little bit of an advantage in a fight. And yeah, I think that definitely helped Derek. We was talking about that when we realized it was a 10, not so clear. We just assumed it was a 12. And then it was like, I think in the gym, and I think the day before the fight, I think it was a Friday, we was like, one of the lads said, it's a 10. Like, no, it's a 10. It's like, oh, okay. So yeah, I do think that is one of those things, but ultimately you can't take away anything on Derek's performance.
I appreciate that you had a private conversation with Derek over the phone, but can I ask you, did that extend to Derek? Are you sure you want to continue?
No, he knows from when in the training rooms after the Parker fight, our last fight that we worked together. He knows what I want him to, what I thought of him. He knows where it comes from. He knows that it doesn't mean that I don't think he can win fights. It just means that I don't want what's coming, what he has to put himself through. I don't want that happening for him, because I like the guy. I get on with him, and he's always been great with my family, with my kids. Yeah, he's it's not something that I want to particularly, see. But it's hard because I don't want to see it, but that I'm going to support him. If that's what he wants to do, I'm going to support him, and that's ultimately we're all adults, aren't we? Once we hit a certain age, we're adults. It's like if you've got a kid, you can advise them, but you can't tell them what to do. They'll forge their own path into the world. And fighters are like that. You can advise a fighter to retire, but ultimately, the coach, the manager, the promoter, even though it's not really like that, but everybody works for the fighter. So ultimately, if the fighter wants to carry on, then they'll carry on. And while ever somebody will put them on, while ever somebody will coach him, go in a corner from the fight will happen. put them on a show. Fight, while they want to box, they'll box.
And it appears to be that he will carry on. And so far, it's a short list from the names that have been drawn who Derek could find himself in the ring with next. Those names that have been bandied about are White, Zhang, and Wilder. What do you think?
So he's got 2 fights. He said he wants to get to 50 and that's it. He's got 2 fights. I think obviously he's going to carry on, so you got to speak about it. I think Dillian Whyte, I think at the stage that they're both at, and I think they're both, a million miles away from, they're not one win away from a world title shot. They're both a long way away from world title when you look at the pecking order and look at who's around at the moment. But for each other, if those 2 fighters are put together, that's going to be a great fight. The styles of each other, the history. I know they get on now. They've got respect now. They've got respect with each other. But with that respect also comes a massive amount of pride. And the history of the 2 fights that they've had before, it would be a similar fight to what we saw on Saturday night, where they're just swapping and exchanging blows, and the neutrals and the fans are going to absolutely love it. The people that are emotionally invested are going to be kind of like watching like this. And I think it still makes a really good fight at the level it is now.
Just a quick word on Joyce before I move on. What of him? And I don't know if nothing's been made of the moment where Joyce seemed to step to Chisora. I think it was round 9, and he seemed to just fall out of his own accord. It appeared to be a slip. Didn't appear to be. I don't know if it's just a tell of his coordination and balance.
Sometimes it happens. No, sometimes it happens. You can just, as you just take a step, sometimes your knee can just give way, or sometimes it happens. There's slips in sparring all the time, or not so much slips, or sometimes, I've seen somebody just, it's a little bit of an anomaly where the leg just gives away. There's no punch involved there. There's nothing like that. He didn't twist a knee or anything like that. He just took a step on, and as he took a step on, he just went down. It was a little bit weird. Yeah, I don't think anything was made of it, because I don't think it is anything. I mean, like I said, it does happen,
Fair
But
enough.
as for Joyce, I feel for Joe Joyce, because he was, on a crest of a wave, and he was flying high, and then he ran into Zhilei Zhang, and the problem is I've always said, when you base your potential and you base your style on how tough you are and how fit you are, and you just throw punches and just take whatever's coming your way, whatever level you've been boxing at, that accumulative effect of punches eventually takes its toll. Takes its toll on everybody. We've seen it so many times that people that have got the greatest chins eventually, to keep getting hit often, when they start getting older, kind of like, it's like a battery that runs out. And I think with Joe, I think, we are seeing that. Listen, Zhang's a massive puncher, obviously, but it wasn't a case of, I said in the interview I did just before this fight, it wasn't, I think it was a rematch. It wasn't even about the shot that finished him. He was hurt before that by a shot that wasn't like a haymaker, so to speak. I just feel now that because he doesn't have skills, the slippery defense, the boxing skill set, it's a very, very tall order for him now. And he's, again, same thing as Derek. He'll carry on boxing as long as he wants to. He enjoys it. It's fine. If that's what he wants to do, then he's a great name for the next generation of heavyweights that are coming through, which is quite sad. I don't like seeing things like that, but it happens in boxing a lot of the times, where fighters that were once championship fighters, they're no longer that level, and then they're used as a name and to build, somebody else's profile and give them experience. Listen, whoever fights Joe Joyce is always going to have a tough night. He's very heavy-handed and he will throw and throw. But while everybody's stood up, he's going to give you an hard night. but there's a lot faster punchers in the heavyweight division than Zhilei Zhang and Derek Chisora, and that's the problem. He's getting hit by guys that are slow, and now he's getting hurt by guys that are slow. The sharper, cuter, more explosive heavyweights that are out there can have a lot more success with them.
Okay, appreciate those thorough answers there, Dave. I want to turn your attention to this weekend. A big fight, real good card as well, too, with ramifications for future fights, for the pound-for-pound rankings as well, too, and the fighters involved. Let's start with the top of the card in the form of Crawford versus Madrimov, 2 undefeated fighters there. Look, a lot has been made about Crawford's skill, and a lot of people are favoring Crawford in this fight, but I just wonder, how much might the weight difference play a factor in Madrimov's favor, considering how good of a fighter he is as well, too?
Mate, this is a really good fight. It's such a good fight. When they announced it, that this was Crawford's first fight at 154, he's gone straight in at the top. He's not dipping his toes. He's not, having a little warm-up fight at 154 before he goes after one of the big guns. This is the biggest gun. At 154, I think Madrimov's the best out there currently. And when you keep stepping up in weight, eventually you have that step one too far. When you're fighting somebody that's on, that's good, that you can give weight away to guys that perhaps aren't on your level. Give weight away to guys that are slow and ponderous and think, you've got good feet, you've got the long range, you've got good IQ. Madrimov's none of that. He's clever. He's very, very sharp. He can punch. He's a bit of a beast. I was ringside when he won the title his last fight. It's really good. His shot selection is good. He's a very, very good fighter. Sorry, we got a puppet, and he's causing havoc on one of those chairs over there. Yeah. So it's a real fight. I think it's a real fight, and it's a really dangerous fight. It's one of those where if Madrimov was to win the fight, I wouldn't be shocked. It's not one where I'd be like, oh my God. I'm a massive Crawford fan, and I rate him as quite possibly pound for pound number one. If he wins this, he's definitely pound for pound number one. But right now there's this argument. We're in such a great state at the moment with a few fighters that have got a righteous claim to be pound for pound number one. But Crawford's right up there. But it is that fight where you're in against a skillful puncher that's another weight division above you, and you could get beat. I would lean slightly towards Crawford because of his IQ, and because, do you know what he's got as well? He's a dog. He's got that venom. He's got that spite and nastiness in him. Watching his fights beforehand and watching little clips of him where in the build-ups where people have gone at him and said little things, and then how spiteful he can turn. And he's got that bit of street thuggery about him, which sometimes I think you need when you're in these big challenges. You can't just be a nice guy. You can't just, have all full respect for everybody you're fighting and be all nice about it. Yeah, you got respect for him, but also you wanna go in there and do a job on him and smash him up. And I always get the feeling that Crawford's got that kind of edge to him, which I think might help him. But also he does get hit, and in all fights he gets hit. That's what makes him so exciting. And again, when you're stepping up in divisions and you're fighting guys that can punch in these higher weight divisions. Remember, Crawford's come from like 135, and when you're going up through divisions, sooner or later you get hit, you get buzzed off something that's just that bit too big. It can change the course of a fight. So I don't know. It's a really good fight. I'm really excited for it.
Do you feel like Madrimov's record is maybe missing one or two names there to give you that full confidence to pick? A bit like Golovkin before he kind of like to the tail end of his career, didn't?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So this is his breakout fight, isn't it? Let's be real. He's just won the title, and his first defense is like, I'm going to go in against pound for pounder. You know, not let me have a fight first and then we'll go over and do this. He's like, no, give me the big dog. That tells you his confidence. And like you say, there's a lot of good fighters out there that we don't actually know how good they are yet because they haven't had that breakout fight. They haven't had those names on the roster, you know. But when you've watched them throughout the career, you know that they're very, very good. You know, it's like Boots Ennis. You're looking at his career over the last, you know, if you're looking at a couple of years back, you know the guy's really good, and you're just waiting for him to have these step out and breakout fights. Really, really good, because you know that he's going to deliver when he steps through, and then when he does step up, then he's looking great each time he steps up. But this is a huge, huge jump for Madrimov, a huge jump, a jump in IQ, a jump in skill set, fighting, old school fighting capabilities as well, which Crawford's got. It's just a really good fight. But yeah, I think we got a little bit on Madrimov, hold back a little bit, because you see a potential, but you don't know how good he is because of he's not had the top fight. But should he win on Saturday night, then we're going to say, wow, then a new star is kind of born. You know, it's like Golovkin. People looked at Golovkin throughout his career saying he's got no marquee names on his record. But you know what Golovkin is, you know, and that's where you sometimes the depth of names on a record, on a resume, can stop people from rating people how they really could be potentially rated as.
Let's follow the line through. You're favouring Crawford to get the victory. I don't think it's much of a secret as to what the fight next would be for Crawford if he does get it, and that's Canelo Alvarez, and that would include another jump of weights and probably having to skip middleweight to go up to super middle. Surely that's a step too far.
So you would think, yes. But actually, I look at that fight and Canelo is huge, but not huge, right? I think Crawford probably the same size, probably in height, not much in it, maybe a little bit taller. Not sure, but Crawford's definitely got a longer reach. Crawford at this stage, especially as well. You look at the last few years, Canelo's movement is lowering. His foot movement's nowhere near what it used to be. His punch activity is nowhere near what it used to be. His triggers and his feints are nowhere near what it used to be. He's a lot more one-dimensional. He's got a lot more one-dimensional. He's gone on loading up on the power shots. Quite crude, a lot of times, quite crude. Mix them up with a few feints, which class, obviously, but still quite crude in his approach and looking to walk you down. Crawford's got great feet. Crawford can change angles. He can box on angles. He can mix his shots up. He's got a very good offense. He's got a very good defense. I actually give Crawford a really good shot against Canelo. And it sounds crazy, and you feel like you shouldn't be saying that, but it's just if Canelo was a usual sort of size, dimension, super middleweight, you know, a 6 footer, you know, quite rangy, long arms himself, and a bit more athletic in that respect, then I would say no way. It's just too big a jump. But I've seen, so I know it's sparring, but I've seen so many times when you've got people giving away a lot of weight, but the size difference isn't, the height difference isn't too much. They have got that massive long reach. It's just that the thicker set, and they've got a slower feet. Then the guy that can box does all right. Now, obviously, it's different sparring head guards, bigger gloves to no head guards, and it'll be 10-ounce gloves at that weight. So it'll be different. But I just think that, I'm not saying Crawford beats him, but I'm saying that I wouldn't say he's a. I think even as it goes along, depending on how he looks against Madrimov, I might pick him. Yeah, I might pick Crawford over Canelo, and that's huge. That's like, wow, what you're talking about. But I'm just looking at what I see, the dimensions that Crawford's available to go out and perform, and what Canelo is now. Not what Canelo is back in the day. Even when Canelo boxed, when I had Ryan Rhodes boxing, his style's completely different. Great, his feet were sharp. Even against Cotto, his shot selection and things like that. He's a completely different fighter now to what he was then. It's more brute force now, which is working. It is working. But a lot of the guys that he's been fighting, even good fighters, kind of get in there and it's Canelo. I don't think Crawford's going to give a shit. It's Canelo. He's not going to get in that ring thinking it's Canelo. Completely change up and think about what's coming back. He's going to go in there to do what he does. And so, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And again, it sounds stupid. Saying it, think about it in your own head. I think Madrimov, just style-wise, as well as he can punch and he's sharp, I think he's a more of a complex opponent than what Canelo is at this stage. Canelo's very good, very strong, very powerful, and he's even though his feet aren't great, he knows I should keep walking down and keep applying pressure to you. But Crawford knows how to take that pressure away with that sort of more orthodox sort of walking it down. I'm not chatting shit completely, but it's just how I see it in my head.
It's a very interesting dynamic. Obviously, we'll have to wait for this weekend to pass to know what the lay of the land is. I just want to get your take on quickly 2-1 here, the 2 fights in one. Which of these 4 heavyweights, Ruiz, Miller, Anderson, Bakole, is going to punch their ticket to world title contention after this weekend?
Bakole, Anderson, and who?
Ruiz, Miller.
Don't get me started on Jared Miller. I hope Ruiz punches his head in.
He's looking very fit.
Great. Is he clean? Is he clean for 12 weeks he's been preparing for? Fair enough. Since the fight's been announced or whatever. I don't care. He's yeah. It's another one of these where it just frustrates me sometimes. But yeah, he got his face punched in by Daniel Dubois, which I was really impressed with and really happy about. Andy Ruiz, is he still light? Because I don't know if that works for him. I don't know if that works. I don't mean for him to be as fat and overweight as what he was in the AJ rematch, but then he came back and he was really, really light, and I think he got dropped in a fight. So maybe that when you lose all that sort of weight and you're not got the same punch resistance. It's a good fight. It is a good fight. I hope Ruiz wins. Bakole against Jared Anderson is a really good fight. Really good fight. I don't know, because if these sparring stories are true, and if Bakole is as good as what the sparring sessions are, then I think Bakole is gonna grind Anderson down. But I've been impressed with Jared Anderson until I don't know if it was his last fight. Was it his last fight maybe? And it was like against who?
Charles Martin.
Yeah, Charles Martin. And I was like, it's still green. It's still quite green. Do you remember when Michael Grant was coming through?
Before my time.
Really?
Yeah.
Thanks,
mate. I appreciate it.
Right. Okay. Well, there was an American heavyweight called Michael Grant. I see him as kind of like more manufactured heavyweights. He was a big dude that he thought he's massive. Let's turn him to boxing, and he was beating people. He's looking good and coming through, and then they put him against Lennox Lewis, and Lennox Lewis demolished him. And you never heard of him. Didn't really hear him. I think he fought a couple of times after, but you didn't really hear of him at any such level since. And I'm not saying Anderson's like that, but I kind of remember thinking he's not. It doesn't seem like he's ready yet for the deep waters, for the tough fights yet. I think maybe he could, if Bakoli's as good, and if I've watched Bakoli spar once, and I was like, shit. And this is a long time ago, and it was down at Team GB's gym, and he was relentless, and he was just like non-stop. And then obviously we've seen him in his fights, and it can be hot and cold in his fights, but his sparring stories are fantastic, are amazing. And if he recreates the sparring form, then I think it could definitely beat Anderson. I think it's a really good fight, a cracking fight.
Would it serve him well to come in heavy like he did against Takam? I know that they said that he was injured and that was part of the reason, but
I don't think it's with heavyweights. The problem is when people when they come in heavy, it can make them slower and cumbersome. And you don't need to be fat and slow to be stronger and impose your strength on somebody. Yeah, you still need to be sharp, still need to be fit to be able to keep that work rate going. So whatever his optimum weight is to get the best performance, fitness wise, engine wise, and and mobility wise, because that's what he is. His strength is when he's walking you down and his shot selection and throwing, grinding you down. If he's not fit enough because he's too heavy, if he's not fit enough to throw those sort of punches after you get past 5 rounds, it's not good. His kind of forte in this is going to be taking Anderson into deep waters, put him in through the mixer as the fight goes along. Anderson might look sharp and good early doors, but Bakoli might be catching a lot of the shots. He's very, very experienced. He's been in sparring, but he's been in with the top fighters, sparring for a lot of years, a lot of rounds. And so he's going to be the more experienced in there. So if he's fat and slow, he's not going to be able to capitalize on that really. So whatever his weight is, where he's fit, then I think I fancy him to cause an upset as far as on the world scene. I don't tend to listen to. I get on really well with Bill Nelson, but I know he can go a little bit much with him. With inflatables, inflating the egos. But from what I've seen of Bakoli, he's an handful, mate. And if he could reproduce that, then yeah, I fancy him to beat Anderson. And I like Anderson. I've rated him, as a good prospect coming through. But I think after that fight, I just thought to myself, is he ready for the hard fights? Is he quite tough enough? I don't know. I'm not sure.